Almost immediately after news broke about the shooting tragedy in Minnesota, misinformation flooded social media, claiming the alleged shooter had Democratic political affiliations. Now, GOP Senator Mike Lee posted some of these, and his colleague, Senator Tina Smith, directly confronted him about it. Take a look.
I said, you know, your message on social media showed the image of the man who killed my friend, potentially minutes before that happened, and your message was, this is what happens. You need to take responsibility and accountability for what you are saying and doing out there in the social media world. I don't think he's somebody who's used to being challenged, and I think he didn't quite know what to do. Words have consequences, and his words have a ton of consequence, and he should own that.
So, but not everyone is taking this message to heart. Take a look.
Have you called the governor yet or been able to speak to any of them?
I don't really call him. Look, he appointed this guy to a position. I think the governor of Minnesota is so whacked out. I'm not calling him. Why would I call him? I could call him, say, hi, how you doing? The guy doesn't have a clue. He's a mess. So, you know, I could be nice and call him, but why waste time?
Yeah. So the children of the slain lawmaker, Melissa Hortman, and her husband, Mark, released a statement that this tragedy must become a moment for us to come together. You hear that and you think, well, why is this so hard for some people to do? You're the guy that's running the nation. Yeah. A tragedy has happened in one of your senators' governor states. Yeah. And you can't call and say, gee, I'm really sorry this happened. I mean, that's just condolences.
Well,
no, that's just condolences. That's what you do.
Empathy. Trump is lacking empathy. He doesn't seem to have that gene that would feel sorry for somebody else's pain. Remember Clinton, I feel your pain. This guy never feels anybody's pain but his own. Yeah. And so Mike Lee, I think, is just playing the Trump game and trying to please the boss. Remember, Trump made fun and jokes about Paul Pelosi when they hit the guy in the head and could have killed him. And he made a joke about it. You know, they just announced President Biden says that he had cancer, and he writes something about, I don't feel sorry for him, he's vicious. I mean, he's incapable of understanding somebody else's grief, the man, and you can't really... I don't want a president like that. I want a president who does feel the pain of the poor and the sick, frankly, but maybe that's just me.
I'm grateful for Senator Tina Smith that she went and approached him, and it doesn't surprise me he's not used to being confronted, because some of the most emboldened people sit behind keyboards and say the nastiest, craziest thing. And if anybody watching right now is having a debate over what the background of this person's political views are, you're the problem. Because when you hear of a tragedy like this, your number one knee-jerk reaction should be outrage and condemnation at the fact that this has gone out of bounds and a family, 2 people have lost their lives. The guy also shot their dog.
Yes.
Out of a complete act of cruelty. So the back and forth of checking in on what kind of, you know, what they watch or who they vote for, you're the problem. This is a tragedy, and that's where we should all stand together. It's ridiculous.
Well, and I say a lot in this show, like, how is social media hurting our young people? But I actually want to ask, how is social media hurting 54-year-old U.S. senators? Because the best I can deduce with Senator Mike Lee is that he has more of a desire for clicks and for retweets and to feed the far-right base that he relies on than he does to have some humanity in light of a tragedy happening. Like, when you hear that people die, if your first instinct is in your heart is, ooh, what can I do to get some retweets out of this? How can I feed the base? Like, something is wrong inside you. Yeah. And I want to point out, I appreciate Tina Smith confronting him, but her deputy chief of staff, because I worked on Capitol Hill, and you know the Democratic lawmakers, you know their staff, they're your colleagues, and there's actually a level of congeniality that usually exists in those relationships. And her deputy chief of staff wrote to Mike Lee's staff, why would you use the awesome power of the U.S. Senate office to compound people's grief? Is this how your team measures success? Using the office of a U.S. senator to post not just one, but a series of jokes about an assassination. He goes on to say that the victim was a force, a human being, and I beg you to exercise some restraint on social media. Yeah. Like, what are we doing? We wouldn't let our kids react to a tragedy this way, but a United States senator can for clicks.
That's what I was thinking. You know, if one of my children responded to something like this on social media, I would be horrified. We teach our children better, and these are supposed to be our leaders. They're supposed to be examples of dignity and conscience. And I think, unfortunately, this type of rhetoric comes from the top. You saw the President of the United States calling the governor of Minnesota, who is dealing with this right now, and his constituents and the people in that state, a whack job, a wacko. What about the families in Minnesota? What about other politicians that are afraid of political violence that now seems to be acceptable?
Maybe you can see yourself there.
Something. And I just want to also say one thing about what Mike Lee tweeted. He tweeted something about claiming that, that this was about Marxism. And I think, first of all, a lot of people don't even know what Marxism is. I think a lot of people don't know who Karl Marx is. And it's
They don't even know who Groucho Marx is.
No, they don't. They don't. And I think that's, it's very dangerous political rhetoric, because experts who study this sort of political messaging, they say associating Democrats with Marxism just furthers this country's polarization. And it's simply wrong, because Marxism is advocating for a classless communist society. No Democrat is advocating for that.
This man.
Mike Lee or?
Yeah.
Mike Lee.
Yeah. This man is someone who is trying to get someplace by standing still. The fact that he thought this was an amusing thing to do tells you the caliber of person this is. What state is he representing?
Utah.
Y'all in Utah?
Get rid of him.
You need to get rid of this.
Yeah.
Because you're better than that.
Yeah.
You're better
They had
than that.
Romney, who was a great statesman.
I'm sorry. I remember, I listened to people get angry when people were questioning the president's assassination attempt. I listened to people who were freaking out because people were saying, hey, maybe, and we said, this is not the time to do that. No. Well, think about it. You can't do it and not have us say, what are you doing? You just said you want a better, more peaceful time. You want people to act differently, and here you are showing your ass. I don't get it. Yeah. And I also want to acknowledge that the Hortman's family dog, Gilbert, was shot in this attack and had to be euthanized.
A service dog in training.
It was a service dog in
training.
Yes.
Gratuitous.
But it is unnecessary. And we as a society, we as a country, we are better than this. I'm sorry, we are. Yeah. We're just better than you don't go around shooting dogs, as we have said numerous times on this show. You don't shoot people. You don't agree with them. Stop listening. Turn off the television. Walk away. You don't take out a gun and take somebody's life. That's just, it's not going to work for us.